mistaken for the set of The Great Gatsby. But no, we are at the outskirts of Johannesburg, at Steyn City, at the incredible residence of Carolyn Steyn. And today we will have a chat with her about her life, about her involvement with her many projects, and about her career. Hello, Carolyn.
Hi there.
Thanks for having us today.
Welcome, welcome. It's a lovely sort of winter's day.
Definitely.
Not too cold. That's why we're getting ready to distribute thousands of blankets around the country.
Yeah. So, Carolyn, tell us, you have been on stage locally and abroad. What are your major satisfactions as a performer?
Gosh, you know, we talk about performer. I haven't performed properly in years. I used to do a lot of stage work. I would say the highlight, but we're talking many years ago, before you were born, a production called Poppy Nongena, which was about the life of a black woman in South Africa whose life was governed by the pass laws. So that was in about 1984, and we opened the production in Soweto. When we entered Soweto, I had to have, as a white person, a pass, and also driving through the streets, buses burning down on the sides of the road. It was quite a daunting experience for me. And the character I played was the part of this white madam and the social worker, with Poppy, who was my maid. And I was so terrified at that time that audiences would hate me so much I'd be shot. But I was a comedy act, you know, so when we performed for white audiences at the Market Theatre, because it was white audiences at the time, there was deathly silence in those comedy moments that I had found in Soweto. So it was very interesting performing for, you know, two different audiences. That was the highlight of my theatre career, Poppy Nongena. Long answer.
But accurate. You've had the chance to interact with such celebrities like Ann Archer and Kate Hudson, among others. How was the experience, and do you remain in contact?
Also, again, many years ago, you know, I lived in the United States for 10 years, and I was in class, acting class, with Ann Archer, Giovanni Ribisi, Jeffrey Tambor, Kate Hudson, and we worked together a lot. So I was in class with them for about 5 or 6 years. And life moves on. No, I'm not in contact with them. You know, I'm very involved with blankets now. So unless people are involved in making blankets, distributing blankets, my life is not really involved with performers per se.
Your lifelong career achievement would define you as a role model, capable of inspiring others to do the right thing. How would you describe exactly who Carolyn Steyn is?
Very complicated. No, I don't know. I think that my life has been an interesting journey. I didn't always live in a place like this. I grew up a very normal girl. I went to JP High School for Girls in Kensington, from a very average family. I was fortunate in that I, you know, was able to go to university, but I fought for that. My parents couldn't afford that. So I worked in the theatre. I used to write articles for a local newspaper, and I got bursaries along the way. So I would regard myself as a fighter, as ambitious. My parents, not having the means, gave me the gift of ambition, because I had to fight for everything that I got along the way, including my education. So I know what it's like not to have. And I think that that also taught me how to give. My mother grew up in an orphanage, so she instilled those values in me. You know, so she grew up with absolutely nothing. And in our life, we had very little, but what we did have, she shared a lot with people that didn't have. She gave our kitchen curtains away to a waitress. So we didn't have kitchen curtains for a long time.
Performing arts is a field that at times works better with the ego side of ourselves. How is that an artist like Carolyn Steyn find time for others?
my life is busy. I'm married. You know, you have to give some time to your husband as well. But I think with the blanket project, this again was a gift to me. It started about just over 2 years ago. And a lot of the work is with other people. So we get together as groups, people from all races, religions, socioeconomic backgrounds, ages, young children, older people, prisoners. So I find time for the blanket project, so that brings me into contact with so many people. And then we get the blankets, we go out to personally distribute to those that don't have blankets. So my life is about giving time to others. So that just is my life.
So in that line of thought, 67 Blankets for Nelson Mandela is an initiative that you started. And it's an example of one of these kinds of inspiring moments in your career. Tell us the story behind this uplifting program.
Well, it started out just over 2 years ago on my husband's birthday, December 19th, 2013, where Zelda Lachransi, Mandela's assistant, challenged me. I was boasting about my domestic abilities, of which I have none. I didn't even make this coffee. I don't have time to cook. I mean, I just, and it's not my interest. So she then said, why don't you make 67 blankets for Mandela Day? And I thought that shouldn't be a problem because I'd learned how to crochet when I was at school. But when my sister arrived on Christmas Day with a bag of wool and a crochet hook, see, she stops me from crocheting. Hey, I realized I couldn't do 67 blankets on my own, and the friends that I had said they don't cook, they don't knit, they're too busy. So I was thinking, how do I do this? So at 3 o'clock one morning, I created a group on Facebook asking total strangers for help. Is there anybody out there who might be able to help me make a blanket? And the next day, there were like over 100 people that had said, I'm in. Hashtag, let's do it, sort of thing. So that's how it began. And January 27th, we had a launch at the Nelson Mandela Foundation. So the Nelson Mandela Foundation has been very supportive and has given us a lot of gravitas and credibility. So I never ever dreamed at the time, where she challenged me to make 67 blankets, that we would have made thousands and thousands. Last year we distributed about 7,000 blankets made by Knitwits from Madiba. We call ourselves Knitwits from Madiba. And this year, over 15,000 blankets will be distributed before Mandela Day, which is July 18th.
This project of the 67 blankets, Caroline, gave you what we would call a prison break. You did something that few people in their sane minds would do. You have reached a hand to people that we have outcasted due to their behaviors. Mm-hmm. As part of the experience of the 67 blankets, this approach to inmates, how would you describe?
Well, the project in prisons is a very important one for me in particular, and for 67 blankets for Nelson Mandela Day. But it started out just purely because we wanted to, get as many blankets as possible to break a world record. That's the truth. And I was thinking, who has time on their hands? We'll go to the school children, we'll approach the schools, we'll have a schools competition. But more than that, kids need to study, so there's not that much time. But they've got mothers and fathers and next door neighbors. But the people who really have time on their hands are the people serving sentences behind bars. I didn't, in my life, think that these feet would step into prison. At one point, many years ago, I knew two people who were in prison. The one was my accountant, and when I was a struggling actor, and I got a call saying, he's in jail, maybe you should go and visit him. There was not a snowball's hope in hell that I would go and visit someone in jail. But I believe that this project is changing lives behind bars. It's giving people who are the forgotten people a chance to feel connected with the outside world, a chance to do something good for someone less fortunate than themselves on the outside, a child, an old person who does not have a blanket. It also is a means of skills development, and I firmly believe that if people are treated with some dignity and respect in that position where you actually have nothing, they may walk out a better person. Prisons can become the universities of crime, because you can go in there a fairly normal person, and I believe that anybody can end up in an orange uniform. You just have that glass of wine extra, and you could kill someone on your way home. And anybody's capable of making a mistake. That's not to say that there aren't very evil people behind bars, and of course there are, but I believe that anybody that behind bars that picks up a crochet hook and wool to create a blanket, there's goodness there. We don't really work with the gangs, although having said that, some gang members have transferred across to the blanket project. I got a letter from Leopold Prison to say that during the months of April, May, June last year, when they started with the project, there was not one incident of violence. So I think we're making a difference. So I'm particularly proud of the fact that we've signed an agreement, a partnership agreement with our National Commissioner, Zach Modise, and that the Minister and the Deputy Minister are very much behind the project, because they see the difference that it's made within the correctional services. One woman that I met at East London Correctional Centre, we announced our plans for Drakenstein this year, got up on the stage, because I said it's very important that an offender talk about the project. And she said, my name is blah, blah, blah. I have served 9 years of a life sentence for the murder of my husband. You know, I can understand sometimes why. But she was very, very passionate about the fact that she was able to contribute in her small way a blanket for someone less fortunate on the outside. So, yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that 67 Blankets is in jail.
Well, I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Your husband was a key role player after Madiba's release from prison. Few have had the honor and good fortune to be part of the life of such icon. How do you relate to it, and how did such an encounter influence your present life?
Well, Madiba spent a lot of time, I'm going to put this away because she's misbehaving now. Hey! Oh, okay, we'll go ahead. Madiba spent a lot of time with my husband. Actually lived with my husband for about a year when he was released at what is now known as the Saxon Hotel. And when I met my husband, I was so fortunate within the first week to meet Nelson Mandela. It was a moment in my life that I will never forget. I was just so dumbstruck, I couldn't speak. But he had this wonderful ability to make one feel at ease. I wasn't expecting to meet him on the day that I did. I had no makeup on, I was in my house dress, but I was very fortunate to have spent quite a lot of one-on-one time with him. Especially in the later years. So I think this project is really close to my heart because it is under the umbrella of Madiba, because I think that if he's looking down, he's smiling on all this activity with so many thousands of people around our country, not just around our country but around the world, making blankets in his name and keeping his legacy alive with each and every stitch that we make with our own two hands. You know, he did say it is now in your hands. And us Knitwits for Madiba, we are listening.
Now getting more personal, though not that close, you and your husband have been married twice. Tell us the love story behind it.
Oh gosh, let's say we all grow up, and my husband grew up. We married for the first time in 2003, and we got divorced in 2003. And 10 years later we remarried. But that's because he grew up and he's become a much nicer person. And perhaps I have too.
Oh. Good for both.
Yeah. It's a good movie. It'll make a good movie.
Definitely. Love story too.
Yeah.
If you were given the opportunity to be born again, with the option of being able to choose exactly the person you'd like to be, how would that person differ to who sits in front of us today?
I suppose I want to say I wouldn't change anything, but in reality, I would choose to stay away from the pain of, relationships and, also, I'm not sure that I would have become an actress. I would choose that again. Because to me, what I'm doing now is so much more fulfilling. I would choose rather to go into fighting for human rights. So maybe I would choose a legal profession or a social work profession. The acting, I think, had a hedonistic feel for me. I liked the fact that I was there on the stage and liked the sound of the applause. But in terms of changing lives, I'm not so sure how many lives I changed as an actor or actress, shall I say. I would do more the human rights angle had I had the chance to do it all over again.
Yeah, your words are definitely inspiring, Caroline. We really appreciate this hour with you today. Any last words for our audience?
I would like to say, please join the knitting revolution for Madiba. Knit. I think that what we're doing, we're succeeding in knitting people together, knitting our nation together, and maybe one day, we can look at knitting our world together and making the world a brighter, warmer, happier, friendlier place.
Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.